We've all got young families in there, so hopefully it won't happen for a while.
Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to our August public meeting. My name is Henley Samuel, President of Gungahlin Community Council, and I'm glad that I can see a few of my executive team here. Ralitza, Peter, Shah, thank you. So if you're joining us for the first time, please be aware our meeting will be streaming online. So if you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, please do feel free to do so. And also, if you want to watch this video later, maybe you can also check it out later. For people who are watching online, welcome to the Community Council meeting. If you have any questions during the sessions, you're welcome to post the comments under the same thread this video has been live. So we will check out the questions and then come back, and then we'll get the speakers to answer. Before we're going to go into the meeting session, I want to do something very important. I just want to honor a local hero. Is a Gungahlin star, I would say. He's been serving the Gungahlin Community Council for 22 years. It's none other than Kevin. Let's welcome Kevin. Kevin, would you like to come over here? We want to... Yeah. Kevin Cox, please come over here so that people can see as well. He's been since 2000.
A long time.
A long time ago in Bethlehem. Yeah, you can say that. So he's been there, and we just want to thank you, Kevin, for all the things that you have done for the community, not just for the council, for all your involvement throughout the different activities and stuff. So we just want to thank you. We do have a small gift. I want to invite my executive committee as well, come down here while we honor Kevin. If someone can take a picture, it gives one to someone. So everyone, please join with me in giving this to Kevin.
Yeah, well done, Kevin.
Yeah.
That's it. Can't smile on it.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you very much.
I really should say something. So, look, thank you very much for everything. Can I say I've enjoyed it? Yes, I actually have enjoyed it. But it's been a long time, and I tended to stick around because people like you weren't standing up to come along, and someone just had to be there. But it is a bit frustrating being on the council because the government actually doesn't take much notice of you, and that's one of the things it's really quite frustrating about the whole business. Somehow or other, the councils have to be able to get more oomph and be able to make much more of a difference. In order to get something done, you really have to work really, really hard to make any difference to people. And I think something has to be done in order to make the councils more effective. Not turn them into regular councils, but have some other way in which they can do that. But I don't quite know how to do that. But it needs to be done.
Yeah, cool. But thank you, Kevin, once again for all you've done. So well done. And Kevin's contribution in the Gunsmoke, which is one of our magazine, is highly regarded. So if you look at the design, so we put some couple of our magazine front page, so that Kevin can enjoy this as well. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you very much. We got a pretty much jam-packed agenda today. So the marketplace, Gungahlin marketplace, everyone would have seen there's an upgrade, happening. So we're going to get Philip to come and share what's happening and when it's going to be reopened, when it's going to be available for the public, and what's coming and those kind of things. And then we also get speakers from Icon Waters. We got Paddy today to give us the presentation. And the last two items I think are going to be very interesting. One is about the Gungahlin Community Centre hub that's going to be in the town centre. So we're going to see what's happening. I think Rod got an update for us, so that's great. The last one, the Block 6, Section 2, which is the Gungahlin Mixed Use Development, which is kind of the hot topic for Gungahlin. So, so we are excited to have you all today, and thank you for joining. Without further ado, I'll probably call upon Philip to come and provide us an update on the marketplace. If you want, you can go.
So, is that the slide thing, is it? There's no PowerPoint. Thank you very much. My name's Philip Nexter. I've been the development manager working on the development at the marketplace, Marketplace Gungahlin. As you probably all know, we've been under construction for quite some time. We started the development back in February last year, and pretty excited to announce that we're actually opening the development next Thursday. So have you probably been?
I can't hear very
Okay, sure.
well. Thank you.
Does this work? No, it doesn't work. I can step closer to you. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. There you go. You probably noticed we've been undeveloped for quite some time, and if you've been,
Sorry, can you please move other side so that
Sure.
you're in the camera?
sure.
Thank you.
This way. Okay. We're all good. Okay. If you've been in the centre in the last couple of weeks, you probably would have noticed the voids have started opening up, and you can actually see up into the new development now. Next slide, because it's a. Yep. Okay. Good. So what I'll do tonight is just take you through. The marketplace has actually been there for 25 years. So I'll just take you through the stages of development over the last 25 years. I'll go through the opening date. I'll then present the plan of what the new development will be and the retailers that you'll see open in the coming weeks, and then just take you through just some market activities for the opening date. So the marketplace in Gungahlin has been in the community for 25 years. So it is coincidentally that we're opening the next stage of the anniversary of the 25 years since marketplace has been at Gungahlin. So stage one, we called stage one, opened in 1998 with Woolworths and specialty stores. Stage two, which opened in October 2005, was Big W and the mall across the road. Stage three, which was Kmart and the new mall and the basement parking, opened in November 2016. And what we're calling Level Up, which is basically the new level above the Kmart mall, plus the bridge link, which will connect through to level one of the Big W Mall, is opening up next Thursday. The mall is quite exciting in terms of it's got a glass roof, so the whole roof is glass. The finishes are all natural granite on the floors. The big children's playground in there, which is a 5.5 metre high, that kids can play on. So quite a nice sort of outdoory sort of space. The retailers that are coming in, Audi is going to relocate into one of their largest format stores. Zamels is going to open a new store. Vodafone You'll see the largest chemist warehouse in the ACT opening. So there's a 1,000 square metre chemist warehouse with their new beauty section, which they've only really opened up in Melbourne in that sort of format. Optometrist, Master Goose, which is a poultry operated. Daily Market Grocer is quite a large Asian supermarket. Love Nails, Curve Brows, Chat Kaz is a large Indian restaurant, Commonwealth Bank. Mo & Co are doing a new concept, beauty concept. Miniso, Bed Bath & Table, Sushi Hub, Espresso Room, Top Juice and Desi Bazaar, quite a large Indian supermarket. You'll also see brand new parents' room, another parents' room up there, brand new amenities. The lift will connect through to this level as well. The travellators will continue and connect up to this level. And you may have already seen the new escalator, which is sitting outside the Kmart store. And that'll all link through the bridge link, which will connect through to the Big W Mall, and the new escalator, which you may have seen, is now centrally located in that mall, which will flow through to this level as well. So next Thursday, the marketing team have organised that radio broadcast. There's an official opening ceremony at 12 o'clock. There'll be a live DJ up there, exclusive offers, lots of sampling, lots of kids play workshops and face painting, etc. And then the opening will extend through to the weekend as well. So there's still lots of marketing activities and lots of stuff for kids. And so yeah, we're all quite excited to finally open it up so you can finally see it. Any questions from anybody?
Anybody have any questions?
Thanks, Phil. Very exciting. How quickly will the car park get reinstated, where all the construction consumed about a third of that car park? Maybe a quarter.
Yeah, so you'll see the site sheds will stay there till December, but you'll see the area outside the site shed, that'll really start scaling back from next week.
And a follow-up question, do you know what's happening with the old Aldi site? I know that's not your problem,
No
but...
idea.
No idea.
Actually, no
Okay.
idea. I know that I think they're trying to sell it, but I don't know. Actually don't know.
Anyone else?
We all have trouble getting out of your car park down there. Is there anything else going to happen down there?
In the car park?
Downstairs, getting out onto the one behind there is...
Yeah, you probably know there's additional line marking that's gone in on that corner just to assist with that. That line marking went in about a week ago just to assist particularly buses getting around. There's a dedicated right-hand turn into that car park. Now the cars can get around.
Do you have any questions on Facebook? Yeah. Phil, thank you. My question is in terms of, again, the car park one. So what I found was with the boom gate, I think, because in the intersection, especially with the Macca's and all those, like with the boom gate, and sometimes I'm not sure whether you can upgrade your boom gates with with some kind of technology that they're using in the Westfield malls, where you can plate recognition, so it takes it's quickly you can send few cars out as opposed to with the old school, because at the moment I'm expecting with the new facilities coming through. So is there any consideration?
Yeah, no, we can look at that. The main issue with that is technology. That with that sort of technology, you actually need like 20 metres of actually time for the camera to actually read the cars, and there's not enough space to actually put that technology into that car park. So we see like a big Westfield centre, they can afford to have a dedicated person sitting there watching monitors all day, letting people out. Unfortunately, we're not that scale of centre, but technology will change over the years, where the cameras just aren't at that advanced where they can actually totally read and capture a full number plate. You actually need certain distances for the cameras to read, and we don't have that distance on that intersection, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, but and part of the reason why we put the car park management system, so you probably, I don't know if you've seen, there's a car park management system in there now, which is directing people to available car parks in different areas of the car park. And part of the reason why to encourage people to park in Stage 2 centre to alleviate a bit of that congestion on that corner. So it's much easier to get out through the Stage 2, which is the big W.
Yeah, but I think most of the problem I see people trying to get in and get out with the Kmart, the entrance. It's kind of thing. So yeah. So with the CommBank, is it the one going to move from where it was now, or it's going to be the new? Okay.
It's a brand new Commonwealth Bank, but it'll move from the ground floor to go upstairs.
Okay. Do you know is that the current CommBank? Do you want it?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not been leased with anyone else. Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Excellent. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. The next speaker is from Icon.
Do that. Thank you. And which button?
Just press the right one to go
Yep.
next.
Okay, great. Okay. I've got notes, so I think I'll just yell, if that's okay. Okay. Thank you so much for letting us come tonight to talk to you about these really important projects at Icon Water. So, does anyone know where the wastewater treatment plant is? Yes. Or no? No? Great. Adenholt. Yes. Yes. That's great. So we're actually, I might keep going first. Before I go into the projects, I'd like to acknowledge the Ngunnawal people, traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. We extend the respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders peoples here today. So, back to the treatment plant. So the Lower Molonglo Water Quality Control Centre was built back in the 1960s, and some parts of it is getting old and starting to become costly to maintain. And other components are reaching their capacity. As Canberra's population nears the 500,000 mark, we need to plan for much needed upgrade works so that we can maintain the level of service we provide to all Canberrans. It's also a great opportunity to put in improved technologies. So what's the approach we took? We were open to all and any technologies that's out there. And we also assessed options against a broad range of criteria, including environmental impacts, community impacts, operational impacts, and cost. We wanted a cost-effective solution that's based on the best science available, but also has clear environmental benefits. So I'm here to let people know what's going on, because these are, like I was saying before, really big projects that we are all investing in, and we want everyone to be informed. So a little bit of what we do at the treatment plant. Basically, we take out solids, organics, nutrients, and pathogens. So the bottom row is the liquid side, and the top bit is the solid part. The two projects that I wanted to talk to you about are in the pink and the yellow boxes. So starting with the pink, it's what we call the bioreactors. These are the workhorses of the plant, where the microbes convert organic nitrogen into nitrogen gas. This section is reaching capacity. Now the yellow box, the Biosolids Management Renewal Project, that's where our solids are managed, And currently it's being heated to about 700 degrees, and we produce agri-ash, and that's beneficially reused on farms in the region. So but this section of the plant is getting old. It still works and it's fine, but we need to start planning for its replacement. So, what is technology that we're going with the pink box, the bioreactors, the workhorses of the treatment plant? What we're aiming to do with that is to upgrade them to membrane bioreactors. So it's very similar to what we have now, but we include these membranes, which are like filters in your, the little under-sink filters, but in a much larger scale. The advantage of the technology over others, this one we looked at, was that it produced really high quality water. So it doesn't need to be chlorinated or dechlorinated, which is what we do now. It has a smaller footprint, and our treatment plant site is really limited in space. So we really need to look for something small. And it's a mature technology, and it's flexible enough to be modified in a later stage to improve greenhouse gas emissions. Now the solids bit. What we've decided was the best solution is something called gasification. This is very similar to what we do now, but it actually produces a biochar. And it's different because it is more like your charcoal from your fireplace. This particular technology solution is a lot better than the others that we've looked at. What is because you can recover energy from this process. It breaks down PFAS and microplastics and certain pharmaceuticals, and it produces the charcoal substance that's also beneficial to soils, like the agri-ash we produce now. And because it does break down into such a small substance, there's less truck movements offside. Yep, that's right, offside. Yeah, okay. I think that's. Oh, sorry, too quick. Here we go. And Ellen will talk to you about our other community consultation actions.
Thank you, Patty. Cheers.
Put you on there.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us and giving us the opportunity to talk to you about these projects. So, for many of us, we are just happy that we flush the loo and it goes away. But we are letting you know about these projects, as Patty has said, because they are very important to all of us. All of us are producing the waste that we are treating. The technologies that we select, we will be using for many decades to come. And as Patty has also pointed out, it is all of us, Icon Water's customers, those who own properties within the ACT, who are funding the project. So we want to give people the opportunity to find out more. And we have also been running consultation. So we've had 2 phases of consultation so far. And this is important to us at Icon Water because we take feedback from the community and we use it in our decision making. We also are very interested in any feedback about how we are communicating generally, as we often have quite complex technologies. So where we can learn something on this, we will use it on future projects also. So we started off with some citizens panels. We had about 20 people from across the ACT join us. They were randomly selected, but we made sure that we had a really broad representation of demographics and backgrounds. And we had a series of panels to explore priorities and preferences around the projects. So at that point in time, we actually had not selected a technology. So we wanted to make sure that the things that we were considering, that how we were weighing up these projects, it aligned with the community. So we really tested that and took feedback on board. We also were very much aware that we're dealing with quite complex technology, so we wanted to try and understand how to communicate about it more broadly. So we got some very helpful tips about different language that we could use to try and make things accessible and of interest, I guess, to people. So we generally found that people were in agreement with what we had selected. So people understood the need for upgrades, and they could accept these two reasons being, as things get older, they do become more costly, and also as capacity is reached, you do need to expand. There was support for the bioreactors, the membrane bioreactors that we selected. So that's the filter system that Patty pointed to. And also people were very interested in the biochar production elements of the biosolids renewal treatment. They were very interested in where circular economy initiatives could be pursued. And very much interested in really anything that would reduce any impacts on the community, including reduced need for landfill. We also had a couple of expert panels. So we have a panel made up of a variety of people from academic backgrounds, wastewater or water cycle experts, and representatives from BOM. Again, we tested our thinking. We tested the technology options that we were looking at and asked them, are we considering the right things, and also are there other people we should talk to? And we received some helpful feedback through that. Now, since then, we have run a survey. We've emailed out a survey to 90,000+ of our customers, so thank you to any of you who might have received that survey and participated. We went with the survey because it was a way of reaching multiple people. We promoted it through social media. We also reached out to a number of community partners. We were very happy to speak to community councils along the way also. And the objective of this survey was really just to do what we're doing here today, educate further, give people the opportunity to ask questions. And we've now got the insights report and we're kind of working through that. But we found overall, I would say, that the feedback we received was quite similar to what we got in the first phase. And we're looking forward to those insights being made available up on the website. So this is the QR code to the engagement sites. While the survey has now closed, you will find a lot of information about the engagement process, about the projects more holistically. But given Patty and I are here today, although the survey is closed, we're very, very happy to answer questions. If you have any questions that we're not able to answer, we would be very happy to get back to the council so that they can be shared with you or with your broader community.
And that QR code, you can, if you don't want to, scan it now, you can navigate through it from our website, Icon Water.
Yes, indeed.
Look, first of all, congratulations on what you're doing. It sounds really interesting and really good. Why does Icon Water go out to the Commonwealth Bank to get investment funds instead of going to the community? Why can't we invest in Icon Water? Why do you go to Commonwealth Bank, for crying out loud? They just made $10 billion. Why don't we have some of that? Why don't we get some of that sort of returns?
So we are a quite heavily regulated business, and the economic regulator, the independent regulatory, the ICRC are our economic regulator, and they set our pricing methodology and also the way that we fund projects. One of the things that we did find in our engagement was that there was a need to understand that funding methodology. We were really happy to have these 20 participants work with us to create an education fact sheet on the way that we fund, but it's not actually something that we can influence as such, other than through the price review process, which I believe you're familiar with. And so that gives us opportunity, all of us, opportunity to provide feedback to the ICRC.
Look, I've had a very close look at all this, and it is possible. There are ways in which the money that's now going outside Canberra to the Commonwealth Bank and whatever it does with its $10 billion, it can stay inside Canberra. There is nothing to stop you doing that except the will. of what you want to do.
So I certainly understand you've got these views, but the ICRC are the body to communicate it to. So being the regulated service provider, we do certainly listen to feedback through the community through our price proposal process. And in fact, our last wave of engagement was focused on the 23-28.
But you appoint the
period.
ICRC, and you tell them what to do. I mean, it's
ACT government,
yeah.
promote.
So the owners
Yes.
control the regulator. It's
Yeah.
not good.
So we are regulated by them, not the other way around. So I encourage you to get involved with the feedback process. And I know you've been vocal before, but I would say if it's something you feel strongly about, continue to do that. But if others are interested in the pricing methodology, which you are quite familiar with, we do have a fact sheet available, and I'm also happy to share it with the council.
And the other thing that, of course, that as you know, again, that I complain about, is that you charge low people who don't use very much water. You charge them, by the time you put in the connection costs, people who use little water pay a lot more for their water because of the flagpole.
The 2 tiers.
And that's actually inequitous within our society. It's not the right thing to do. So people who consume a lot of water pay less per kilolitre than people who consume little, and that's not fair.
So again, the 2-tiered pricing is something that's set and regulated, but as I said, for the current, we now ticked over into the next price path. We did engage with, that was actually our most extensive engagement to date, the last wave of engagement for the price proposal, and we did seek feedback from customers, and we also looked at the impact of various prices on different customer personas, so people from different home environments or who might be running a business, for example, to test different scenarios on them. But again, it's the ICRC process. You can provide direct feedback to us when we're going through that engagement process, or also to the ICRC, who in fact make that decision and set and regulate the prices.
And one final thing. When are you going to put in electronic metering so that we know when we've got a leak in our garden?
So you would be very interested in that last wave of community engagement for the price proposal, because that was actually one of the things that we looked at. It's not in the near future, but there is some really good insights on what we heard from the community in testing that and in putting that to the ICRC. So in the last wave of engagement well, you may be able to navigate to this page, but certainly through our Let's Talk Water and Wastewater page, there is some really great insights on smart metering.
I have a quick, simple question. What sort of time frame are we talking about here? Is this something that construction will start next week, next year, in the next decade?
As you can imagine, these are huge projects that need to be planned. So we are looking at 2028 to be operating. So that's the bioreactors. So that's the liquid side of things. But the biosolids, because we do have a bit of time, that's going to be later.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks. I'm not sure if I missed it, but in the survey, was that about testing how people feel about drinking recycled water?
No, but
Because it said here something about February 2023, you were going to be testing the appetite of Canberrans for poo recycled water.
you will be excited. This project, no. So this was simply on these 2 infrastructure renewals for the treatment process, or within the treatment process rather. But you'll be excited to hear that our next wave of engagement will be focused on water security, and part of that is likely to include future sources. So
Because that is something I'm so concerned about in Canberra.
we're not there yet. We're not there yet, and so we do want to hear what people say. So what we can do is note that this council would be potentially very interested in talking to us once we get to that water security engagement.
And the Gungahlin Community Council too, because I'm actually a visitor here tonight.
Oh, okay, fantastic, fantastic.
Okay, so once, presumably before all this work is done, you'll start looking at this business of recycling. because with all this densification and population explosion, where's the water coming from? Because they said the Cotter Dam was going to protect us for 50 years. And at my age, I thought, you don't have to worry about that. But now I'm worried.
Yes, yes, and water security is certainly front of mind. Yes.
Oh. Any questions on Facebook? I said no. Any other questions? Excellent. Thank you very much, Patty and Helen, for coming down. We appreciate that.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. And it sounds like we'll have the opportunity to hopefully talk to you about some other topics in the future. Thank you.
Thank you once again. The next speaker is Rod. Rod going to come and talk about the upcoming project that's going to happen in Gungahlin Town Centre, the community hub.
Okay. Thanks, Henley, and hello everyone. Rod Baxter from EPSDD. Just set this up. Okay, well, I think people who've been following the project probably met Elizabeth Judd, who's been doing a lot of the work for us with this project. Elizabeth was unfortunately unwell tonight, so you've just got me instead. But look, things have progressed well. It was about a year ago, I think we had our first discussions with the community about their expectations for a community centre. And on the 27th of June, there was a budget announcement about $26 million of funding for the new Gungahlin Community Centre. So well done to everyone involved in getting it to that point. So, as I say, really in June 22 we started, there'd been a number of meetings and discussions with people and peak interest groups along the way. We're now at a point of having this meeting tonight, and then we'll get some material up on your say, and we'll be lodging our development application over the next couple of weeks. So there's a list there of people we've been talking to, and they've been involved, through a number of interactions of, initial ideas through to concept designs, and then review of concepts and settling on a final DA package. And I thank all those groups for their involvement. The budget announcement in June, as I say, so our process from here is to lodge the DA, get cracking with the detailed design, and then look at tendering for construction. So exactly what is it then for those that aren't familiar with it? The site is the southern end of Gungahlin Place, and the eastern edge of the park and ride car park, if people are familiar with that, just on the other side of the Big W development. So we've got an existing tree on that eastern edge, so it's not actually affecting parking at all. There's the existing tree which needs to be protected. And that sits then in the central courtyard. And I think I've got a pointer here, have I? Is that one working? No? Okay. So to the south we've got a two-storey element, the central courtyard with the existing tree, and then the youth centre to the north. And that's gives you a bit of an idea of what it is. There's a 3-metre awning which runs down both sides to provide connection between the two buildings, and also to continue that awning along the street edge for weather protection for people using the footpaths. So the community centre then, the two-storey element to the south, there's the latest round of input, spoke about what we needed to do to the gallery to improve the display space, change rooms for the upstairs dance exercise room, a few detailed comments about the multi-purpose space downstairs, accessibility to the arts workshop, storage to meet the needs of the different user groups. So, bulky objects, make sure we don't just get too mean with the storage, because in the end, that's really how these multi-purpose spaces can work. Comments about the youth hub, foyer, to have a pantry and food preparation area, more storage again. And how do we actually sort of try and personalise this thing and make it a bit more than a nice crisp new building? But what do we do about engaging local artists and the like to just provide that little bit of interest and something a bit more from the community rather than from the construction of just a new building in itself. So, look, there's quite a bit of detail in this, which I won't really go into because it's probably a bit hard to see. But as I say, there's a two-storey multi-purpose community centre to the south, and then a single-storey youth centre to the north. And we'll just flick through some of the images then. The single-storey building, external and internal, being the youth centre. The two-storey element then coming in from the street or from the car park at the back through the central corridor, which then has a nice open flow through to the upper level. A number of spaces that I mentioned earlier, an arts workshop, arts display area, a multi-purpose workstation for community groups to meet, exercise rooms for the local dance teacher to get classes going. We're at this point now where we want to actually hear from those people, and anything the Community Council can do to get that message out is going to be very welcome. So it's the community actually getting involved. And an example I've often used, because I live in Gungahlin, and my kids and now grandkids all get along to the Gungahlin Community Hall, which has been there since the suburb was built. And that hall is just a fantastic asset for the community. It's allows young people with ideas about education programs or different activity groups that they want to get involved in. They're able to access the hall at a very modest price and run their programs. And it's used 7 days a week for everything from dancing to judo and goodness knows what. It's just a really good asset to have, and that's really what we want to see happening here. And they're the people that, to be honest, through the consultation, it's a bit hard to actually connect with those people until they can actually see something happening, and then their ideas start to flow. Whoops.
I'm sorry, Phil. Just can I ask you a quick question regarding the storage I think you were talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. So at the moment as the community council, we struggle for storage or anything, considering, in one way or other, Gungahlin Community Council going to exist and it's going to be long-term, it's going to progress for a long time. So, communities like us, can we bring our, the gadgets and put them there and use for those ones? Is it something how you are planning for the storage, or is it, what kind of storage is that?
Absolutely. So let's think with the ground floor multi-purpose room, which is about 400 square metres. So it's quite a bit bigger than this room, but the one wall is entirely given over to lockable storage cupboards. I can't tell you, there might be 10 or 12, for example. So to an extent, it's sort of first in, best dressed. Ultimately, it will perhaps run out of space, but let's say we've got 12 significant users of that room, for particular sporting events, for example. Let's go back to the sort of the judo example. If someone has a lot of padding and equipment that they use in their training, that can be used for 2 hours, and then it can go back into the lockable cupboard, and it's there for for Thursday night's training. Now, something like the Community Council, if you think that that's a better venue for your meetings than where you are at the moment, then absolutely, it's the access arrangements and the booking arrangements will be accessible to the community broadly. Who the actual building manager is at this point in time, we don't know, but the critical part of the ongoing management is that community access is at the top of the list of requirements. So if you think in the end, look, this is a great space and we'd rather be meeting in the new community centre than at the Licence Club, then by all means, that's the point of it. It's whoever's got a reason for wanting space, that space is available for them to use.
So I think the problem we are having, maybe it's the same case for all the community councils around Canberra. So as you know, we are volunteer organisations. We do have the some of the gadgets that we sometimes, most of the times it's someone's garage. So I would like to consider if you could consider something like dedicated space for some some of the community organisations like Gungahlin Community Council, so they can store there, able to keep it or manage those things, and then also able to run those meetings. But from what I can see, the storage that you are talking about could be very small.
There's a room of about 20 square metres, which is for bulky gear. There's an opportunity for that sort of storage. But I think for what you're talking about, which it might be less than a cubic metre, if you like, in terms of its volume, then there'll be a lot of that. There will be a lot of that within the cupboard space, which is proposed along the walls of the two multi-purpose rooms. So look, in the end, if there's 100 groups and they've all got storage requirements, then ultimately we will run out of space. But I think specifically addressing the needs of the Community Council, I think you'll be pretty much first cab off the rank, and you shouldn't have a problem. You won't have a problem at all in securing a space to store your equipment. This is a bit of a bird's eye view, then looking into the courtyard, the existing tree, the two-storey building to the south, and the single-storey youth centre to the north, and then the 3-metre wide awnings or canopies running down both sides. So the idea is that the buildings open out onto this central court, and it becomes another room, if you like. It's got outdoor seating, informal and formal. Mostly it's in sun. There's not a lot of shade being thrown by the single-storey building. And with the existing tree, just complementing that with an interesting landscape design of decks and shrubberies, and then also small community garden in that top right-hand corner that you can see. So look, I think that's pretty much explains it. I hope you get a sense of what's involved with it. So I talked about program. Questions? Look, one other thing I'll mention is that included in the budget is actually for 3 years, which is the approval time and construction time for the community centre. There's an amount provided for ACT Property Group to rent space in the town centre. So I think they're looking at space near where the youth coalition used to be. They needed to vacate that space because I think a restaurant showed an interest in the space, and the landlord had then required the youth centre to vacate, but there's an allowance for that the group to re-establish in rented space paid for by the government while this construction takes place. So, any questions? Okay.
Just a couple of things. Who is ACT Property Group? Is that part of government?
It is, yeah.
Okay. And would I be right in thinking, I'm not familiar with Gungahlin, but this is actually being built on what is currently green space?
It's actually a car park, essentially.
It's a car park. It's a hard surface.
I think I've got another nice slide here, which, where did it go?
Because I was just wondering if that is the case, will this attractive area that you're showing here be accessible 24/7, or will it be a locked up area? Is it like a mini park?
It's got a fence around both sides, like a pearl fence, if you like. But just so kids, if you like, running around in there, contained.
But it won't be locked up on weekends or anything like that.
Look, I think that's a detail thing. It'll have pedestrian gates, which are lockable, but whether there's a need to lock them or not is something that will...
Just looks like a nice space which people could use.
Well, it certainly is,
green
and
space is
we'd like to
disappearing.
think that the building's being used most days of the week as well, and in which case the whole thing is actually acting as one. We've got the indoor and outdoor spaces linked, and it's a place where people feel comfortable.
Does it have a cafe?
Well, look, there's a provision for a cafe. How that might... so we've got a cafe space there. The real quite interesting part of the discussion with the community was about the need for a sort of commercial quality kitchen, so community groups can come in and cook up large feasts, if you like, and have that facility on site, and then again both indoor and outdoor spaces where people can congregate and enjoy food and being together.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a few things, Rod. Just confirming, when you talk about the youth centre space being funded for 3 years, which is really, really good news, that's Gunner's Place. Okay, that's the Gunner's Place. Great, excellent. If you've got the DA coming out in about a month, you're not really in a taking feedback kind of phase anymore, right?
Well, we feel as though we've had a lot of interaction, and we've landed on a proposal. I think with the say the internals and the fit out, that's not a DA issue. That's something that we can work on for the next 2 years. But hopefully we've got basically the buildings, the outdoor space, that bulking and form of the development resolved to the point where the DA can be lodged. Any finessing we do in the fullness of time, really just about sort of audio-visual systems and the sort of furniture we're using, they're not DA issues, they're things that can...
So this was really in relation to what we'd like the Gungahlin Community Council to help us with is, and I was unclear what it is you want help with. So you are asking for us to help get the message out around expressions of interest to people wanting to use the site, or
yes, I think. So
are you running that campaign online? Is there, or is there a Facebook post or a web page we can share?
Yeah, so this is being loaded up onto Your Say over the next, few days, I hope, or certainly within the next week or two. So people will be able to see what it is that's being proposed. The discussions then about how it's managed, again, that's an important thing. There is no predetermined management model at this point. There will need to be someone who is responsible for the building, and that probably won't be the government. So we'll be looking at a community group to be involved in being, to some extent, the lead tenant, and to provide the access and the various requirements that will be written into any sort of tender that would go out for building management.
Okay, so we sit tight until the Your Say comes out, and you'll tell us.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, just at the mechanics of what is the actual ask.
No. Well, it's to, I guess, to some extent, to be champions for the facility and to let people know that it's coming. I haven't got a detailed construction program here, unfortunately, but realistically, we'd get a DA approved by the middle of next year. So we've then got construction starting in the second half of 24 and close to a 2-year construction period, which would take us into the second half of 26.
What was the feedback? We had this guy from University of New South Wales up here a while ago talking about this stuff. What was his? Has he looked at all this, and what was his reaction to it all?
I'm not aware of the person you're referring to, but I'm happy to make contact with him if he's seen as an expert.
I thought that I got the impression that we were following sort of his ideas as to how we can make some of these things more social, if you like, and more used and so forth. So that's...
Look, I think there's a lot of people who have expertise in community facilities, and I believe Elizabeth Judd is one such person, and Judd Studio has done a lot of community facilities developments over the years. Preceding this, we had the Community Facilities Needs Assessment, which were a group of planners with particular expertise in community facilities, which helped establish the need for the community centre and what some of its core requirements would be. But look, if you can come up with the name of a person that there's been some other engagement with, then I'm happy to follow that up and just see if we've missed anything.
So is there a sort of or you haven't done a plan yet of how it's actually going to operate? There is a plan for that, for how it's going to operate? Who's going to run it?
Well, we don't know who's going to run it yet, no.
Right. I mean, these places can easily get vandalised and so forth. How do you...
Okay, so look, we've got some funding to ensure that there's, we don't just say, look, here's a building and here's the keys, who's going to be responsible for it. It's going to be a little more sophisticated than that. So that all of the larger community organisations may have an interest in this, so whether it be Northside Community Service or whether there's a group forming in Gungahlin, I don't know. But we'll probably 2 years before completion date, we'll go out to tender with a whole list of requirements, and those requirements will be, for example, to have an online booking system, an ability to show all of the spaces that are available for hire, just like a modern office building, if you like. You go online and you see what the capacity is of different rooms, what the hire charges are going to be, and then how do you you then have your details within the system, and then you're able to book the room for 2 days a week or whatever your requirements might be. Security systems within the building to close off spaces, so when we know it's there's an after hours activity, but we don't want the whole building open, that there will be secure zones within the building to allow for the downstairs multi-purpose room to be accessible, but nothing else. When the arts people are in there using the arts workshops, then the arts workshops would be open, but perhaps nothing else. So there's a lot of security involved. There'd be obligations to have a presence 7 days a week to allow for as much weekend activities as weekday activities. Talking about audio-visual equipment and all the systems that people would like to see in a modern building, all of that takes maintenance and has costs associated with it. So in the first 3 years of operation, there's government funding to support all of that, but then hopefully it can be a self-funding model beyond that. Well,
The 3 years is to fund Gunner's Place for 3 years until they can make it.
No, but beyond Gunner's Place, we've actually got money in the budget to help operate the building. So once it reaches a critical mass and there's 80 hours of bookings a week, then even at modest rental charges, that's revenue that can be self-sustaining and keep the building operating well without a lot of government interference.
Kevin, do you have more questions?
It's not. It's the online microphone.
Oh, sorry.
We've gone community facility, which should be funded to be run. It shouldn't have to depend upon bookings, because then it's no longer accessible to people who can't afford the bookings.
Well, for example, one of the requirements would be that any youth activity would have not even a peppercorn charge, perhaps, because we know that the kids, even if they had to pay $2, they'd say, well, that's a disincentive to go and participate in that, so I won't. Look, I think probably the closest model is the old Belconnen, now Capital Community Service building in Belconnen. That's operated for the best part of 40 years in the manner which I've just described. And it's great. You can go there and you see, mum and bubs groups there, dance groups, you name it. You think of any activity and it happens there, and everyone's got on fine, and it's been a model which we'd like to think can be replicated here. I know there's been other models which you're well aware of, I expect, being the original Gungahlin Community Centre. I know its capacity is very limited, but it did reach a point where the community felt as though it wasn't getting the access to that building that was intended, and we're not going to make that mistake this time around. Sorry, I'm getting confused.
So Rod, I mean, the consultation on this project's been really excellent, right? And where it's going is really positive. But you sort of pointed out one of the challenges we've got a community hall in Palmerston, and we're going to have this community centre in 3 years in Gungahlin. In 3 years' time, there'll be 100,000 plus people in Gungahlin. Is there a series of program works to build other community facilities through Gungahlin? We don't have a Kaleen or a whole number of suburb scale community facilities like most other districts in Canberra. And so we're talking about one modest but excellent looking centre in 3 years' time, and you've got to rent a space for 3 years for one room to run Gunner's Place. There's still a tremendous shortfall in facilities based on the demand I've heard. So,
well, I think there's 3 or 4 suburban halls. There's Ford, Palmerston, Gungahlin Homestead, and there might be, look, I think there's 1 or 2 others. So there are those facilities out in Gungahlin at the moment. This facility is certainly comparable, say, to the Gungahlin Community Council, which has operated in the fashion that I described earlier. I don't know, I had intended to ring and get a bit more detail, but I did see it in the Canberra Times, I think a week or 2 ago, and that's this new multi-purpose pavilion that's being built at Epic, and that's that was talked about in the lead up to this last election, I think, by both the Liberal and Labor parties, having this facility that would accommodate quite a few, several thousand people, if you like, and have cooking facilities and much more amenity than the old tin sheds out at Epic. Something that could be used for these very large weddings that I hear talked about, and those sorts of functions and gatherings that have been apparently looking for a home for a number of years.
Okay.
So yeah,
so
look,
the
I think
answer is no intention to add anything other than the new centre and the Epic facility.
Well, at the moment, I think there's two quite substantial projects, and look, there's the sports projects that have been talked about, tennis and home of football, and they'll have.
So I was after the community hall, but that's okay. Understood.
Yep. And well, look, I mentioned the school gyms as well. So for every new school that's planned, it's a 2-court gym as part of that package. So again, that's a new approach to sharing school facilities and on a larger scale than has happened in the past.
And so the feedback on that is those spaces are frequently not fit for purpose. There are a lot of issues with storage, a lot of issues with security, and a lot of issues with scale. There are only 2 courts. There's no single point of booking for multiple schools. Some schools will hire that out space pretty openly, some of them are less restrictive. And that's not my opinion, this is feedback from a group of I used to be participating in. So I think there's a way to go to make those smaller scale facilities work effectively and actually contribute to meeting needs. Plus, most of the spaces that are available now through the schools are all booked out by long-term renters who've been there forever. And as a result, smaller sports and activities struggle to get spaces. So, you will have heard that from others other than me. I'd be pretty confident.
Look, we did talk about this earlier, and I may as well bring it up again. Sport and recreation have certainly stated, and it was amplified in the community and recreation facilities needs assessment, the need for indoor sports facilities in Gungahlin, and that's not off the program by any means. So there's very active discussions going on about that.
Okay, cool.
I do have a couple of questions regarding the location, because at the moment it's near the bus interchange, and the proposed one, the future recreation space, in between the future recreation space and the youth hub and the community centre, there is the road where currently used as a bus layover zone, and so I'm not sure have you considered all these things with the traffic that's going to come through this in that place?
Sure. So look, I'll talk about this because it's quite important. I thought I had a slide of it, but apparently not. So in this central space there, the southern end of the Gungahlin Place Linear Park, it's dry land grass, no tree planting. It's sort of a bit of a there's no real purpose to it. What we have a design for a whole lot of sort of youth type activities for that space. If you go a bit further to the north, there's kids' playgrounds and a whole lot of younger children sort of oriented spaces, as well as sort of recreation spaces for adults wanting to just sit down and have a drink their coffee or whatever. But this area here, we thought, well, is this something that we could develop as a something more for teenagers to use? Has it got a half-court basketball court, little skate facilities, an area where the kids can hang out, if you like, and not feel as though they're sort of getting in other people's way. The problem is anyone who's sort of tried to cross Efkapides Street is the buses, the head of queue of the buses is right up at that tangent point on that corner, and you've got to walk out into the middle of the road to cross the road. So there's no way in the world we'd be spending money on attracting people to the median until we've dealt with that traffic safety issue, and that's one of the ongoing discussions we've got with Transport Canberra is to resolve the bus layover so that we can make that a much more pedestrian oriented street frontage, and that will then allow us to expand across the road and create those recreation facilities. But not now. There's money in the budget to fund that. I'm pretty confident that we will have the money to do that, but there's a few other things that just need to fall into place. Now that we've got the money, we can have those discussions in earnest, if you like, with other agencies and try and find some resolution. There's other people probably were involved in the active travel planning for Gungahlin. There were cycle path coming down the median of Gungahlin Place and then coming along the Valley Avenue as a separated cycle path. So they're all things that we need to sort of integrate into the that open space planning.
Yeah. Because with the future recreation space, do you know it's going to be like an indoor facility, or is it? Oh no.
It's outdoor. As I say, like an outdoor basketball court. You see, there's lots of cities that have fencing and active, teenage type teenage activities happening, so the ball's not sort of running out into the middle of the road and the like. So there's ways of dealing with that in a sort of a good urban design facility. The fencing doesn't need to be just chain mesh fence. There's there's a lot can be done to actually make it just to actually read as a bit of a destination and an activity space, but it's all outdoor activities that would be proposed there.
I'm really interested to to see how the outcome of the bus layout you're talking about.
With
that outcome, that's kind of a bit concerning. Considering we're going to have the youth hub and all those things, so I'm not sure how this is going to work. But I'll wait for the the discussions that you're going to have. As I say,
I acknowledge that it's a problem, and we're now just bringing other agencies involved into the discussion and working out what a more sensible arrangement can be.
And in terms of the time frame, so the youth hub, the community centre, are all these things going to be built at the same time?
I think it'll just be one project. So it might be that the future recreation space is done a little bit later, depending on how we go with relocating the buses. Is the obvious issue.
So at this time, we are looking at 3 years from now?
Yes.
Sorry, you do have questions?
Just trying to make it quick.
Yeah.
So I'm not familiar with it. You're saying it's a car park. is what I can see down the left-hand side there on the screen. Is that parking that's going to be retained?
Across
Long-term.
here. So that's all parking. The parking, people, this isn't adequately fenced off, so people come in and park under that old tree, which is certainly not doing anything for the health of the
But there's
the
no
tree.
actual designated parking for this that's happening.
There's
It's just public car parking somewhere?
So that's essentially all disabled spaces at the top, and then some spaces to the south, and then we're relying on people parking in the adjacent public car parking spaces. So there's
So that car park's staying, the one to the very left of the screen?
Look, it won't be there forever, but the territory plan requires the future development of that site to replace those public car park spaces. So any development that goes on that site, it's not in the land release program, so we're talking a number of years away.
I wonder for how much longer that will occur.
But the requirement of the territory plan is that public parking be created in any new development, so that that public parking isn't lost.
On that block?
Yes.
Yep.
And future recreation space, is that something open air, like it'll be grassy, or could be actually a building like badminton courts?
No. Well, it won't be badminton courts. No, it'll be outdoor activities.
Outdoor.
So it'll be landscaping and outdoor activities.
Rod, before we conclude, just the last question. With the car park, are you considering any basement car parks in the community hub or the community centre?
No.
No?
No, because we've got the tree in the middle of the site. So if we want to retain the tree, then we're talking about quite small basements, which in the end just become a bit of a management issue. So no, there's not basement parking.
What kind of trees? Is
The big eucalypt that's there
eucalypt?
now. So it's probably a 200-year-old eucalypt.
Right. Okay. So that's the one. It's stopping the community, the underground car park.
Well, it would be a restriction on.
Park under the tree now, on the ground.
Sorry.
I think the point Rod was making is the tree is just out in the open and cars are parking under it and thereby parking on its roots. Yeah, that's the point you're making?
Well, that is one point, but the other
Basement.
point, the thing goes to Henley's question, have we got basements? And the answer to that's no.
Nor undercrofts?
No, the parking is what you see there. So there's whatever, it's 6 or 8 spaces for disabled parking adjacent to that western building entrance. And then the rest is either you get there on your bike, by a bus, or parking in the adjacent public parking
we live
areas.
in Canberra, Rod. We live in Canberra. You do realise that in terms of public transport, yeah. So I think parking going to be an issue. So I would like to trigger now if you can, take it on notice and see whether something you can think about and increase the parking. That'd be great. Thank you, Rod. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming down.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Rod, for coming down. Last but not least, regarding the block number 6, section 2, the Gungahlin mixed-use development site. So we've got the speakers. Peter, over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Hello, it's nice to be back in person. It's been a couple of years since I've been here with the Community Council, and thank you very much for the opportunity to come and talk to you. My name is Peter Vanderbilt, and I'm here with the candidates from Hostile Architects. This is the second time that we're talking to the community about Block 6, Section 2. Off memory, probably about 5-6 years ago, we visited the Community Council and we had a community consultation, and at the time we were proposing a 12-storey apartment building, which at that stage went to the planning system and got approved. Through the that never proceeded, and in the last few months, the lessee has come back to us and Austal to ask us to have another look at the site. The site itself is in the CZ2 area of the town centre. It's a 573 square metre site. It has been sold to the lessee, I can't remember, many years ago, and it still remains vacant to date. The proposal that we're coming to talk to you tonight is for an 11-storey building for commercial accommodation. And without any ado, I ask Dean to come up and talk us through the proposal. If you all can keep your comments or questions, then at the end we'll have a question and answer session, if that's okay. Dean, can you please join me?
Thanks, Peter. I've got one here.
You've got.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks for the invite to come and speak today. As you're probably aware of the site, but we'll run you through some of the site context, the analysis to how we got to where we have today. And as I said, we can take some questions at the end as we get through there. So before I start, the developer, as was mentioned, is Benchmark Projects. That's represented by Frank and Nick Pareca in conjunction with Camptown Planning and ourselves, Austal Architects. So the intent for this project is that 11-storey development, as you can see highlighted in yellow there. It's located up in the CZ2 zone in sort of the north area of Gungahlin. It's in close proximity to the Yirribee Ponds, to major roads, and in this instance Gundaroo Drive. It's in a high density mixed use environment with surrounding developments that range up to 23 stories have been constructed. It's close by to other retail activities and very within sort of very close proximity, walking distance to the actual town centre where we are, and modes of public transport, most notably the light rail system. So zoom in, I guess a little bit more of a close-up of our site. You can start to see, I guess, its size in relation to some of the other developments around. To the north, we've got that small site, which is the telephone exchange. To the east, on the right, the emergency services building, and we're flanked by two roads. We have Anthony Rolfe Avenue running right to left on the screen, and Gribble Street running up and down. These are just some of the context images around the site to show it sort of in relation. Most notably, what's come out of, I guess, some of the conversations with the community to date is, I guess, its access. You see that its frontage is very limited to both roads, and we have that intersection to deal with. So as we go through some of the analysis, that will come out in that process. This is just, I guess, the zoning map just to show you that sort of precinct that we're talking about. I think it's 2B, and the precinct code is CZ2. To look at some of the, I guess, the site conditions that we had to deal with and the analysis that we undertook. So the first one, you can see the site. There's no actual landscaping or vegetation on our site. There are some vegetation to the east on the emergency services side. One of the largest, I guess, issues or constraints that we had to deal with was the service easement to the east. It's a 4 metre wide easement that runs the length of our boundary. There's some crossfall that we had to deal with that runs from north to south down towards Anthony Rolfe Avenue. There's some servicing around the site. There's a lot of services that run in that easement, as I spoke about. Then moving on, we looked at then some of the road networks and started to give that a definition in terms of moderate or dense movements, which started to then drive the design in terms of access to the site, both vehicular and pedestrian. And this bottom right image is just a graphic to start to show the topography of the lay of the land. As I mentioned, going from right to left, the site falls down. It's approximately 1 to 1.3 metres of fall. looking at the design principles, I guess, starting at the top left image, this is the building interface. So that hatched yellow area is essentially the area that, at the ground plane that we had that we could work with. The white area is that easement. So from a serviceability, we couldn't build over that at the ground plane. The zigzags show what we believe or have identified as the active frontage. That again is from a pedestrian perspective, and that was came about through, I guess, the contours and the way the site fell down. Also the moderate sort of movements on Gribble Street opposed to Anthony Ralph Avenue. So we go across. This shows the proposed driveway and vehicle access onto the site. It shows then how we would connect down through the site. We go down the easement using that natural grade to then get into a basement arrangement. That then, I guess, carves up the site to show, I guess, what is left in terms of the building footprint. To the left, that's our ground floor communal space and entries. And to the right, the small square is for services, in this case, waste collection. Again, this is the bottom left, again, is showing that ground plane in terms of buildability, what we're proposing. It also shows the proposed pedestrian network that we're adding on. The existing network is just the footpath that runs along Anthony Ralph, but to, I guess, start to connect to our site, from that connection, we've added in the footpath network. And sorry, the last image is just is an overlay of all those design principles. From the precinct code, the allowable building height is 12 stories. We're proposing 11 stories, and some of this imagery starts to, I guess, set the scene in terms of what is the urban context, what we're proposing, and we sort of start to see how this becomes sort of the gateway into that precinct. Just some of the last sort of a little bit of analysis or context that we looked at was the landscape surrounding the immediate site. So we looked at, I guess, some of the water bodies, some of the open spaces which I've spoke about. You can sort of see that in relation to our site in red. This image here shows the different transport networks, most notably some of the surrounding bus stops, and certainly that pedestrian connection to the centre of the town centre, and on Hibberson Street, the light rail station. So we'll just jump in some of, I guess, more of the functional plans, and I won't, again, bog down too much detail, but this is that ground plane condition, which has started to bring in those design principles that I've spoken about. We have some on-grade surface car parking. We've got our vertical circulation that discharges at ground level. We have some community use on the ground floor and access down to a basement. We also need to, I guess, cater for the services, I guess, for these type of developments. The site area for this, it's quite small. It's quite compact. It's 573 square metres. So it was quite challenging, I guess, to fit, I guess, the functional aspects that is required with these type of developments. On the left image, as we go down, this hatched area is, I guess, the easement which we aren't building over, but we're utilising that to get down into the basement parking, and then trying to utilise that area to our best of our ability to provide as many car parks. We've got a total of 15 across basement and on grade. So this image again is that ground floor condition. As we go up, level 1, there's some more communal meeting spaces which at this stage hasn't been designated into a certain use, but I guess what we see that could be meeting rooms, additional storage, shared kitchens. It could be a whole host of things, but I guess at this stage, this DA stage, it's been left quite open and flexible. And then on the right, this is our typical floor plate. This is a stacked arrangement, so this floor plate is consistent right up through the building. It's generally all 2-bedroom units. The idea was to, I guess, provide what we see as more of a universal type of unit, which the 2-bedroom caters, I guess, for a lot of different accommodation uses. And that's probably something I didn't mention too much on. This is a commercial accommodation project. It's not a sole occupancy, your standard residential apartment building. This is a commercial accommodation which hasn't been to a certain operator as yet, but it could service as serviced apartments. It could be a whole host of, I guess, uses under that umbrella term of commercial accommodation. These are some of the elevations that have been generated. So on the left, that's Gribble Street. If you're standing on the street looking back at it, you can see the large opening. I know that was brought up in the last community session. That opening allows for waste vehicles to come on, lift on site, and get off, which was a restrictive constraint that we had to overcome. The east elevation, as if you were standing in the emergency services, looking back at our building, showing our access down to the basement. We've got Anthony Ralph elevation. The materials here are, we're looking, I guess, for high quality, low maintenance materials. Most notably, they'll be precast in sort of different finishes, textures and colours. Also with some softer materials to lighten up the building, and also the use of glass as well to get as much natural light as possible. This is the north elevation that fronts the telephone exchange. This was done to allow, I guess, the future development opportunities to that development to our north. We do propose, I guess, to dress up this facade, some community artwork, how that is facilitated. That's something I guess we will need to look into in further detail. Just some sections, I guess, to start to show you the scale and I guess the stacking arrangement of the circulation and of the accommodation units. And these are just some artist impressions, I guess, start to give it some urban context and put it in place, I guess, in and around its site. I'll flick through a few of these. And I think the final one here was just a shadow analysis, I guess, to show that the majority, this is the winter, on the winter solstice. So you'll see for a reasonably tall building being slender, at the worst time of year in terms of overshadowing, generally it's only on verges or roads and sort of very minimal overshadowing of some commercial properties at only various times in that winter solstice. So that just about brings us to the end of the presentation.
Thank you. We want to start.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, thanks. So I still am struggling a little bit with the commercial model, and I think on the briefing, the online briefing held a couple of weeks ago, there's a lease requirement that the maximum tenancy is 1 year. Is that accurate?
No. So the Residential Tenancies Act at the moment allows us only to have residential leases or commercial leases for up to a certain period of time. So one of the things that's being investigated here is the build-to-rent model that the government has been presenting as an opportunity, and if it ultimately gets commercially rented in that space, it'll be the leases will be limited by the Residential Tenancies Act, which limits at the moment the time for those leases to 12 months.
But it's clearly not built to rent then. If you're either renting it like a long stay hotel room, or you're renting it, and I don't. The idea that people would rent a property for a year is a little unusual, I think.
Well,
and I don't. I mean, I can see the argument that, yeah, we're going to have these 12-month leases, and that might be something people want. You know, I'm no expert, but it just doesn't sound like it's build to rent, which seems to be, you know, the sort of buzz phrase of the moment.
But I mean, it might be a 2-month lease, it might be a 3-month lease, it might be a 6-month lease. Quite commonly, people come to town for a shorter period of time, but they don't want to go and rent a residential house in the suburbs, but they want something more, sort of more substantial than having a hotel room. So this commercial model sits somewhere in the middle between those.
Okay, but it's definitely, you know, essentially renting an apartment for a small number of months. You know, not renting out a place for a person to live, unless they want to live somewhere for a year, sort of thing.
Well, I mean, in that sense, no, similar if you rent a house, you can only rent them on a 12-month basis. So in that sense, it's no different. But the big difference between this and a residential apartment building is this will not be broken up and sold and be sold separately. It is to be owned by the owner, and
that was
put to the market as a rental proposition.
Yeah. Okay, let's move for the moment.
The obvious question is the parking arrangements. If people are going to be living there for a year, why are you only providing 15 parking spaces, even if there's only 2 people in each of these units with 1 car? That could be a lot of cars requiring to be stored somewhere securely.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting proposition, and that's something that's come up in the conversation with the community, and the disparity between some people saying don't build more because we don't want more cars in this area, it's already pretty subscribed for cars, and on the other side people are saying, well, if people are going to live here and they're going to have cars, where they're going to park. The fact is, this is 45 odd apartment or service apartment style dwellings. We understand from the proponent that they this will be put to the market for people that potentially do not, or come to town that don't have a car, don't want a car, or don't want to maintain a car, that are prepared to. There'll be some car parking available for incidental people that needs cars, but there's opportunities for people that want to rent a place and have a car to have that accommodation. This is intended to be a different typology. It's intended to be different and give people not only a different choice, but also a different price point.
So can people who might want to stay in this accommodation for a year, can they get a permanent lease on a parking spot? Or is it just every day it's who turns up gets the spot?
I don't know. They said that the model is worked out to that level, but I think it will be in the interest of the proponent if somebody comes and rents a unit for a period of time and they want one of the car parks. Again, that's the beauty of having it in a control and a central ownership. There'll be no impediment to the leasing agent, whether it's the owner or they have a manager doing it.
To me, it seems massively meagre, the parking arrangement. For 45 2-bedroom places.
We would suggest that we believe at least 30 people today that will be more than happy to rent a space and do not want or have the car. And there's opportunities for somebody with a car.
There's nothing to stop.
Yes, there would be, because if they come here and they want to rent one of these apartments and there's not a car park available, then they won't have access to one. And they then choose to go and park somewhere illegally, then they'll get fined.
But they don't, we know that.
Well,
and also, it litters the streets with cars, and street parking is not secure. Well, one night I left my car out, the back quarter window was smashed in, and the car was right.
I take your point on that, and I'm not arguing that point that it's potentially dangerous to park a car on the street. I absolutely agree with you on that. But in the end, the intention of this is to give people a different opportunity, a different price. But in the end, we have a firm belief if somebody have a car and they are concerned about the matters you're talking about, they won't come and lease here, and because there won't be a car park after the first 15 car parks, there won't be a car park available.
Yeah, perhaps to refine that, I mean, the Parking and Vehicle Access Code defines how many car spaces you're required to build for certain sorts of developments. What does the PVAC have to say about this development?
So, again, it depends on how it's characterised. As built to rent, which currently is not a use that is.
But there's nothing there's nothing in the PVAC about built to rent.
No, the nearest closest would be service apartments, which is an individual assessment to the territory plan. So in the
Service
the
to
table
providers.
of users. And that's probably the nearest, closest consideration.
Okay.
And the code itself does not have a parking number in CZ2 for service apartments, so it gets assessed. It doesn't mean you don't have to have any car parking. It means that it will be assessed on the objectives of the code, which talks about safety, efficiency, practical availability, and the like. There's probably about 6 or 7 objectives, and we need to provide the case to the authority as to how we think that's going to work, and it'll be assessed on a case-by-case individual basis.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure when did you came to the council, but I don't remember. Maybe it's before my time, but thanks for doing the presentation. The first concern is this block size. I have a huge concern of the safety and the security of the people who are going to live there with that small block, which is kind of a normal block size in Gungahlin, where most of the residential houses been built. So that's the size, and we are talking about around 11, 12 stories, which to me it's kind of putting everything in a small piece of a corner block. That's one big concern. How are we going to do that in that space? And the next one with the shadow and stuff. So we have an emergency. Next block is police and state emergency service and all those things. So with the winter, and especially with the amount of sun we get during the winter, and I'm not sure how best this is going to work, because the next block is just right emergency service. So I'm worried about that one. The second one, the third one, with the car parking. In Canberra, it's a realistic fact that everyone runs a car. Pretty much you all probably came here with a car, and even though you claim it rent to whatever rent is build to rent or service apartment or whatever the model, just to hide behind those clauses, but in that area it's already mess. I'm not sure whether if you driven through the street, illegal car parking everywhere, because most of the people couldn't find the car spot in that place, or maybe they don't have enough place for the visitors to park the car. So that's an ongoing concern happening in this area. So, and finally with the commercial element, if you're saying it's an hotel, okay, fine. We all know that's the people go and it's all kind of a moving thing. But I think it's kind of it looks to me like we are just using some terms so that we're going to pretty much rent a normal family, but we're not going to call them as a rental kind of thing. So we're going to say it's a commercial element. We're going to do it. But in reality, the family is going to live there, and then they're going to extend the lease for every 20 days or 30 days, and then that's going to, it's what it looks like, and that's going to create a lot of issues, and it's going to change the area, the element at the moment with the other units and stuff. So we all understand how those units operate. So it's going to just kind of complex everything. We've got to be upfront and say, okay, what you're building, is it going to be commercial? That means if it's going to be just like a hotel style, like people just go and floating population. That's But if you're going to say, okay, it's going to be rent, built to rent kind of scheme, I think I don't buy that one. So if you can explain all these things, that'll be great.
I'll just jump on the shadow straight up.
Yeah.
So
You might want to
these
take
these are the winter solstice. So this is, I guess, the worst type of shadow that you're going to get throughout the year in the middle of winter. Our building won't start to overshadow the emergency services building to 2 or 3 o'clock on the 21st or 22nd of June. Besides that, there's very limited overshadowing of any other property apart from the roads and the verges. So in terms of the design itself, it actually is quite efficient in terms of overshadowing, given that the majority of our shadow is obviously to the south, and that's where we've got quite a large road and generous setbacks to other commercial developments.
Saying it slightly differently, in the morning, there'll be, that's the shadow falls over the road, and only that little bit of shadow falls into somebody else's block. In the middle of the day, it falls over the road and basically doesn't affect anybody. So you can see the transition from there as it comes across to the middle, basically goes, and this will shorten eventually and hardly touch this block. And then as it swings around the afternoon, it'll end up having a little bit of overshadowing in the later afternoon of emergency services. So even though it's quite a tall building, it'll actually have a very minimal impact on anybody. The shadow will fall in the road.
Have you got a diagram that shows how this particular block could be shadowed? Are there lots of tall buildings around it that could mean they
Yes.
don't get any northerly sun or much northerly sun? All those units. How much solar access have your units got?
From the adjoining.
How many other people affecting you?
Yeah, well, that'll be part of our DA submission. Certainly, it's really, I guess is it Illumi? I think it's across the road. That one, probably the 3 o'clock, it's going to have some overshadowing us, but generally we aren't built out on our northern boundary where basically the sun works around. So as it is at the moment.
Just take us back to the aerial photo.
So the 3 o'clock shadow, this is showing some maybe potential future development. This is the building that later in the afternoon in winter would cast onto our development.
That's be in your DA, will it, showing how much sunlight?
The shadow analysis will be, from winter, summer, Yep.
As I say, it doesn't look like it negatively impacts anybody else.
Yep.
What you want to do, but I'm just concerned for the residential amenity, if people are going to be living there a long time, how much access they have to sunshine.
Again, worth noting though, I guess, is that this isn't a sole occupancy typical unit. So in terms of the solar, so in terms of the multi-unit code, you have to achieve a certain amount of hours at a certain time of the year. This is a commercial accommodation unit. Those rules don't apply, but certainly we've taken into account surrounding buildings.
Thank you.
Yep.
So in terms of the question about car parking, I don't know what we can explain more than what we've already done in terms of that. It is a commercial accommodation development. I've explained to Peter how the codes. Beg pardon?
Then you're saying it's not.
It is. That is the whole point. Build to rent is commercial accommodation. It's accommodation that's put to the market on a commercial basis. You cannot own it. It is.
The argument is whether it's a long-term, I don't know, what's the term for getting a hotel lease?
And
room?
And I mean, and that in
It's
itself is,
different,
yeah. And again, and that's why I'm careful to use the term build to rent, because it's not a term under the territory plan. It is a concept that is emerging in Australia, and the government about 12 months ago has started talking about this formally, about how this might look and the like. Ultimately, how this will be managed, I don't know. We're not in the space of working on the actual management of the building, but we have been told by the proponent that they want this building to be designed to be an owned asset, so it won't be sold. It will be owned in one line, and it would present it to the market with the opportunity for people to come and rent here. So I mean, that's. I don't have more information than that, because that's where the brief that we got in the design we've been working on.
Probably gathered already. I'm a bit of a cynic, but.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
So we know that from way back. But
and then
could 2 bedrooms be split into 1 bedroom? So in fact, you've got 90 1-bedroom people. Have they each got bathrooms? Or?
Most of them are 2 baths.
Yeah, just they could be split.
There's only one door. I mean,
Yeah, it's still treated as one unit. It's not like there's 2 separate accesses. So,
Okay.
and
I haven't seen these internal ones
they're
before.
on their website.
And then, so in terms of car parking, the proposition that the proponent is putting forward is I'm going to build a development with 45 commercial accommodation units, and I'm going to service that with 15 car parks. Some of these car parks will be available to people that live here, and we expect that there will be people that want to live here that will not come to town with the car. and they won't have access to a car park, so they will be required to use public transport or other forms of transport to get around. They won't have the ability to have a car in the building.
So the other questions, if you remember about the small block, in terms of the emergency, how that's all going to work.
So the building has to be designed in accordance to the Australian standards for buildings, the Building Code of Australia. And Dean, do you want to talk about how emergency access and those things work in the building standards?
Yeah, I guess, are you talking about, say, emergency?
Yeah, because it's such a small block and we're going to build a lot of floors on it. So
how does this perform from a BCA egress and safety access point of view?
Yep, so in terms of that, I guess path of travels and the functional aspects for residents to get from their apartment or from the site out to the street, that's all been designed, I guess, as part of it. And what you're saying with being a very small footprint actually helps in that, in terms of that instance, that you don't have long corridors where you might see some of these apartment buildings where you've got to walk 60 metres to get to a fire stair, down to another fire stair. This is quite compact. It
So
works.
you can see we've got the fire stair structure, you've got shorter runs to the fire stairs, which is enclosed. The passages and the stairs are designed to code standards so that people can get, if there's a fire, they can get out from the apartment into the safe space, which is the fire stair, get down to ground level and pretty much immediately get out to the street.
And then I guess on the ground plane, or you can see on this level, we'll have, and we're mandated to have certain things like pump rooms, or I guess all the services that we need for, say, the firefighter to come in, plug in and fight that, say if there was a fire. So it'll have all the, I guess, the necessary building elements and services that we'd see across any other development within Gungahlin.
So in the building code, there's different classes of building, class 1, 2, 3, and so on to 9B, I think is the biggest number class. And every one of them has specific requirements for safety, access, fire protection and the like. This is a class 3 building, if I remember correctly.
So it's defined, I guess, as a transient accommodation opposed to a sole occupancy.
So, and in that code, and this is not a Canberra code, that's an Australian-wide code, this building has to be designed to meet those requirements, otherwise we won't get the building approvals and the construction permits to build it in the end. So all of those safety concerns and that has to be taken into account, and it has to meet those national standards for us to get the permits to be able to build this.
in the community space in the building, you just talked about some kind of community element. So what kind of, how big that space going to be, and what would that be?
So we have it on both the ground floor and the upper floor. I think it's 137 square metres. I guess that's for this one. The ground is a little bit small. I think it's around the 100 square metres.
So there's about 200 square metres available. One of the hallmarks of build to rent is that when you rent there, you get access to other services in the building other than just the apartment, and that could be arranged. I think it could be potentially a cinema room or a bigger combined dining room, so you can entertain people not in your unit but somewhere else. It could be a co-working space, so you can have a desk where you can go and sit and work. You don't have to work in your apartment and the like. So the whole idea is because you have a community of people that rent to live here. You create additional amenities for them to support them in that space, and the design creates the opportunity for those spaces to exist. So that the developer, and over time it'll change as the building and both this marketing, but also the people in the building changes, gives them the opportunity to change that space over time to service the people that's going to rent in this space.
So basically that space, it's not accessible for the public?
It tends to not to be. It's generally for the community that will live here.
So we're putting a tag rent to, build to rent. So pretty much people are going to rent that apartment just like normally how they're doing in Canberra, but with the small short term, and then it's going to be probably. Is that what it is?
Well, I don't know what the model will look like.
Yeah.
We're not tasked to come up with a model. We've just been told this is the development that will be owned and will be put to the market as a rental proposition as commercial accommodation. So I don't know how ultimately the developer will run. I don't know whether he will own and run it, or he will run it himself. He might get a management company to run it.
Do you have, so if it's going to be any model, if it's going to be commercial element, do you have the office space to maintain that commercial element? So if you're going to say, irrespective of whether it's going to be built to rent or whatever it is, so if you think it's going to be a commercial element, where is the office going to be so that the people can maintain this thing? Would that be an office in this?
The office.
Yeah.
Quite commonly, these things are not, so doesn't have an on-site office. Nowadays, a lot of these companies actually do the management online, and they have people that visit the building to do the building functions. Okay. So it might have an office. There's no reason why not. The space is available, but quite commonly, it's not necessarily a requirement.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, it's a very difficult block to
to
find anything for it.
Say that in the online position that we acknowledge is a difficult block.
The worry is that it'll become a slum. That's
Why would it being a difficult block make it a slum? I mean, I'm interested in that comment because just because it's a difficult block doesn't mean that. I mean, we can't characterise the community living there by.
You've got tiny apartments, got no parking, you've got no amenities there, very little stuff. That's what it can become.
And happy to sort of accept that comment, and we'll keep on working on that as a concern.
If it had one apartment on each floor, it might even be a luxury apartment.
I'm not sure that the economics would fly. So when this original lease would have been knocked up, what, 15 years ago, 20 years ago?
The original lease.
I mean, when the block was the territory plan. I mean, what was the intended purpose? And you may not know, but it looked like it was designed for a hotel or a motel style accommodation.
No, it was initially designed as part of the future office precinct, and it was sold with a very, very broad range of purpose stores. It includes hotel, motel, office.
Yeah, like
all of the office styles at public business agency and the like. There was no specific consideration even about what it might actually be in the original planning.
But you're saying that there are some lease conditions, which, and I guess we can go and dig them out eventually, that require. What is it that triggers this 12-month maximum lease?
That's so if we want to lease it out by using the Residential Tenancies Act, that act limits how long a lease can be.
Okay.
So it's got nothing to do with.
And what's your other? And what's the proponent's other option?
Just to set it up as an apartment and lease it like you lease a hotel or a motel.
And what? And it's literally up to the proponent to make that choice, or there are other things. Because you were saying, if it's a commercial tenancy, I'm not sure if this is a requirement of Class 3. You have to have, in addition to all the other things around safety, you have to have other value add on site. And I assume that's why you've got the two commercial/community spaces.
You don't have to have a value add, but we see in the build to rent models that we're working on that providing additional amenity for the residents of the building or the lessees of the building is a common feature. I mean, it's an absolutely emerging space, and I don't think a lot of us at this stage understand exactly how it will work. It's much more done in Europe and America than what we see in Australia. In talking about the management of it, I venture well off from what me as a town planner is my expertise. So I don't think I can eloquently answer those questions with any authority, because it's not what I do. And also, we haven't been asked by the proponent to come up with the actual management model of this. So I don't know, but we're trying to design a building that can actually accommodate some of those opportunities.
Yeah, okay, but I mean, you're a town planner, you're an architect, you know this stuff. We're the community going, I just have no idea what's going to happen here. I mean, it's really weird, right? Why is there so little carping? And yes, there might be opportunities, but like Henley says, pretty much everyone works or lives in Canberra has to have a car. Not everyone, but
it's interesting, but as a matter of fact, the DA that was presented and approved previously had similar amount of car parking.
I'm aware.
About 54 units, I think, at that stage.
And I think it was in the 40s.
40s, yeah.
Very similar scheme, yeah, it was.
Yeah, 48.
I do remember it. They're physically not unlike. I think the arches are new. Not sure I personally into the arches, but
I still have the old community consultation posters in the office, and I often haul them out when he walks into show. It doesn't look too dissimilar, because ultimately the planning envelope of the site. I mean, and previously there wasn't even a height limit. That's in the refresh of the plan. An actual height limit is written in.
It's a story less.
Yeah.
In the region,
So the 12 stories came out of the refresh. Previously there was actually no specific limit, and we had 12 stories approved. So that context about how much car parking is right and the like, it's been an ongoing discussion.
Okay. I think this is a great example where it's sufficiently different that it's really hard for the community to really get a head around and understand. But other than the traditional things that the community is always concerned about, parking and traffic flow, and then what is this going to add to the community centre? And at the moment, it's more problems with parking and traffic. So you end up with this tight loop.
And there's an interesting question in that, because if we put more parking, then there will be more traffic, and there will be more cars. So there's a balance between the two as well. I mean, there was a suggestion during the community consultation that why don't we make this a 12-story car park? And I said, well, from one side, the efficiency of the building would be terrible, but if we park that amount of car parks here, what happens to the traffic on Gribble Street? So it's that balancing there. Yeah.
Anyhow, with that one, if you don't have roads, you wouldn't have cars. What I mean? So that argument never works. So,
but I said that was a comment that came out of the community to us, and so somewhere in this continuum, there's an answer, and where that answer is. And I'll take Peter's point that it's a difficult thing to get their head around.
But thank you very much for coming down. Do you have a question?
With this development, it's got no car parks or car spaces. How are you going to accommodate for people who have disability or elderly people who want to come into the property? Is there elevators? Is there stairs?
Just show me a floor plan. So it has 15 car parks. To say it doesn't have car parking, it's not correct. There are 15 car parks on site. And if you look in it from ground level, you come into a foyer, into a lift. So the whole building is lifted, so you'll be able to get lift access from out of the basement or from ground level all the way to your floor, like any other conventional hotel or apartment or commercial accommodation style building. And if there are people with special needs and the like, we have the opportunity with the car parking on site. And that's again where it's great that the owner and or manager has control about the whole building. So if there's a lease to somebody that needs that service, they can actually make a car park available.
Thank you, Peter. I think we have to conclude now, but thank you so much for coming down and taking questions. So we were looking forward for the DIAs and, whatnot, minor details, but thank you once again for coming down.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us tonight, and we thank you all the speakers who have joined. We'll be working on a couple of petitions, to name, or some like in cinemas. One of the cinema is we've been waiting for in Gungahlin for a long time. We're getting so many inquiries. So along with the other things, so we'll be working on a petition soon with the cinema. So if you have any concerns or anything happening in your particular in the area that you're living, please send us an email or comment on the Facebook. So we'll love to get back to you. Thank you very much. Have a good night. God bless.